Very good afternoon, distinguished guests and fellow colleagues. My name is Alisa and I'm from the Center for Liveable Cities. Welcome to today's lecture series. The Center was jointly established by the Ministry of National Development and the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources in 2008 to distill, create and share knowledge on livable and sustainable cities. The CLC Lecture Series is one of the platforms through which the urban thought leaders share best practices and exchange ideas and experiences. In today's session, we are honored to have with us our distinguished speaker, Mr. Rob van Gijzel, Mayor of Eindhoven. Before the session begins, we would like to welcome Mr. Andrew Tan, the Deputy Secretary for the Ministry of Transport and Fellow of CLC, to give his opening remarks. Mr. Tan joined the Singapore Administrative Service in 1991 and has distinguished himself in diverse leadership positions, including as Principal Private Secretary to the Minister Mentor Lee Kuan Yew, as the Deputy Secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Chief Executive Officer for the National Environment Agency. Mr. Tan is also on the board of the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, Singapore. Without further ado, let us invite Mr. Tan, please.
Very good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, the Mayor, His Excellency, Mr. Rob van Gijzel, Mayor of Eindhoven. I hope I got that correct. Always happy to be back to CLC to do my part. It's my pleasure to deliver the opening remarks, and as you heard, the CLC Lecture Series provides a unique platform where urban leaders, experts, academics can exchange ideas and discuss emerging city issues and challenges, drawing insights from all over the world. We are indeed honored to have you, Mayor, to be with us. He's also the chairman of Brainport Foundation. You've heard of airports, you've heard of seaports. Why not a Brainport? He's a man of diverse interests, trained in pedagogy and andragogy. I had to look up on the last one. You can ask him what it means. His Excellency became a Member of Parliament for the Dutch Labour Party in 1989, where he was spokesman for Foreign Affairs. So we have something in common, for spatial planning and for transport, public works and water management, and chairman of the Standing Committee of Finance. Prior to becoming the Mayor of Eindhoven, Mr. van Gijzel was an independent businessman on the boards of several organizations, including the National Association for Priority Urban Districts and the Caterina Church Advisory Committee of Social Debates. Something about Eindhoven. In 2011, Eindhoven was ranked the most inventive city in the world by the Intelligent Community Forum, a think tank in New York. And just this year, Eindhoven was also ranked the most inventive region in the world by OECD. The city has constantly pegged itself at the peak of high-tech developments, with several initiatives to foster and increase its knowledge economy. Among these is its Brainport Top Technology Region, which recently the A-STAR, the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, also visited, which is a cooperative initiative of local government, industry. I believe they call it the Triple Helix. And the Eindhoven University of Technology to develop the local knowledge economy of the Eindhoven region. Eindhoven is also a home to world-class businesses and technological giants like Philips, Asml, NXP, and many more. Who would have guessed that Eindhoven is also one of the oldest cities in the Netherlands? The success of Eindhoven demonstrates that past and present can coexist, that the city's past can also be a source of inspiration for the present and future, provided it keeps itself relevant to the needs of a modern economy. And today, as Singapore stands at a crossroads of its own development, what insights can we draw from cities such as Eindhoven, which, like Singapore, has to grapple with pressing socio-economic and demographic changes amidst advances in science and technology? So what are the necessary ingredients for success? To address these questions, we are therefore pleased to have Mr. van Gijzel share with us how Eindhoven is transforming itself into a dynamic living lab for the knowledge economy, as well as how strong collaborations across organizations, sectors and regions can be forged. I believe the experiences from Eindhoven will be of great interest to us as Singapore embarks on its own projects, such as the Clean Tech Park Living Lab program, a part of JTC, or Jurong Town Corporation's Industrial Infrastructure Innovation Initiatives, and Singapore's Eco Town at Punggol. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please put our hands together to welcome His Excellency. There will be a Q&A after this presentation. I look forward to an engaging session. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to stand here, and to tell a bit about our city. It was just called the nexus of innovation. Well, it was not all the time that way, and I'm going to explain a bit about our history. Maybe it's good to know that our city is a very old city. We got city rights since 1232, but it always remained a small city, and it was, although it was of a very important strategic geographical place, it was destroyed 4 times in history, completely destroyed. In the Middle Ages and in the end of the Second World War, the day after our liberation, the German troops, the German Luftwaffe came over our city and destroyed our inner city, our downtown, completely. So that caused us a delay of the war for 9 months, because the American and the English troops went through the city on that moment. So they had to clear up all this stuff and the remains of the buildings before they could continue. I don't know if you know the movie A Bridge Too Far. It's about Arnhem, but that was caused by the demolishing of our downtown. And it lasted 2 other days before the troops went through the city, and then they reached too late first base Nijmegen and then Arnhem. Immediately after the Second World War, it was already before the Second World War that the Philips company was founded in Eindhoven around 1880. But immediately after the Second World War, there was a huge growth of economic developments in our city, especially caused by the Philips company, as well by the DAF truck manufacturer. And what we saw in the 80s, and what was of great importance, was that there was cheap labor in South America and in Asia. So we lost so many labor places during that period. In the mid-90s, we could see that in 2 years' time, within our city itself, we had 110,000 labor places at the beginning of the 90s, and 2 years later, we only had 75,000 left. We lost a third of our labor places. And well, it was a very sad period. We faced this, a severe economic problem. So we had to take another approach. And then we started in the mid-90s, we started with what we called, not at that time, what we called the collaboration between the government, the Knowledge Institute, and the entrepreneurs, the business side. And it's now called the triple helix structure, or sometimes it's called the golden triangle, but I never use this because then I always think of Burma and not of economic activities. But so they started with a completely new approach, and it was really from the floor up. We raised a fund, and we asked the people, the 21 villages around the city of Eindhoven, to bring in money. For each inhabitant, they had to bring in 10 guilders at that time. So we had a little fund. And we asked the European Union to double this fund. And then normally, this would be public money. Normally, you always say, okay, then the government is going to decide what will happen with this money. We took the other approach, and we asked the entrepreneurs to make a committee and to see what are the challenges and the opportunities. So this committee, there were all kinds of entrepreneurs coming in front of this committee, and they made a proposal, and then the committee was choosing who would get money for the new proposals. So this was really, well, I must say not a governmental approach, but really a business-like approach, and that was rather successful. The other point was that the former mayor did something very important. When the Philips headquarters went away from Eindhoven, he forced Philips to implement a research laboratory in Eindhoven. That was one. But the other one was that he said, you do have so many patents you are not using. You fired so many people who worked at your company. The people who can use a patent from your company, you must give them for free. So they did. So these guys and girls could start their own company with a patent of the Philips company. And that causes that we got so many spin-offs. For example, Asml, FEI, NXP, huge companies nowadays, but they started as a little company at that time as a spin-off of the Philips company. You already named some of these. Well, of course, the Philips company still have a huge research facility in Eindhoven. It's the high-tech campus. And ASML, I don't know if you're familiar with ASML, we'll tell later on a little bit about ASML. But when ASML is making machines where you can make chips with wafer steppers. And they are doing, on this very moment, 87 or 88% of the world market. So when ASML will break down now, today, then we will face worldwide a crisis that is not comparable with the financial and economic crisis we are facing in the world on this moment. So the importance, you never see ASML. ASML is in your devices, it's in your cell phone, it's in your laptop, it's in your, everything, your coffee machine, in everything you find chips made with the machines of ASML. Well, that's ASML. FEI, it's electronic microscopes, NXP, VDL. I just went here this morning to VDL. They opened a new site for manufacturing. DAF, well, I already told you about DAF, the truck manufacturer, OC, DSM. They are working already for more than 10 years, maybe 15 years, on the digital revolution. What Philips did was the industrial revolution. We are now facing a digital revolution. And within 10, 15 years, we will see a new revolution becoming behind the digital revolution. And it's about quantum. I'm sure about that. I went to Canada a couple of months ago. We do have a very tight relationship with Canada. And what I see there with quantum and quantum computing, what they are doing there, it's beyond your imagination. We already said something about the airport. We are saying, indeed, we got 3 main ports, A, B, and C. And the A is from the airport, that's the Amsterdam district. The B is from the Brainport, that's our district, the Eindhoven district, the Eindhoven region. And the C, it's not a C like that, it's the C from Seaport. And that's the Rotterdam Harbor. Maybe some figures. In our region, we got a little bit less than 1 million inhabitants. It's around 4.5% of the total amount of people in our country. We do have 60,000 industrial jobs, and we do have 10% of the GDP, more or less. 12.4 billion on export euros, foreign investments for 10%, 8,000 beta students, that's 80.8% of all the beta students in the Netherlands, and 1.7 billion on private research and development, and that is nearly 25% of all the private investments in research and developments. But maybe the most important one is that we got more than 40% of the patents in the Netherlands. All the patents are issued in the Netherlands, 40% is in our region. And well, when you see that there is an international recognition since we try to reinvent ourselves since the mid-90s. For example, in 2010, the Financial Times named us the city of the future on the European continent. And then, and that's maybe important to see that what we did on that way of collaboration in the triple helix structure, you are doing the same thing as well. I think we got a very advanced system now. I'm the mayor of the city. I'm the chairman of the Brainport Foundation. But as a mayor of the city, I'm not responsible for what I'm doing as a chairman amongst my council. That's rather complicated, but it's very helpful. Because it's the alderman who takes responsibility for the economic development, but I'm leading the forces, the economic forces in our region, without that I have to go to my house to explain day by day what I'm doing over there. Our Prime Minister tried something in the past. He had an innovation committee, and then, well, every time the innovation committee made a decision, our Prime Minister had to go to the second chamber, and then they said, what were you doing there? And we are not in favor with that. So I told our council, when we are going to work together in a triple helix structure, it's like a marriage. You're not only deciding yourself by yourself. You have to share all the decisions. So we really share the decisions with the business community and the Knowledge Institute. If you want to decide it by yourself as a government and as a council, then don't start a triple helix structure. You give power out of hand, but it gives you a lot back. And I think that's very important to see. And there are quite a lot of mistakes in the world that the government side still want to rule what's going to happen, and they say that they are working in the triple helix structure. That will not function. So, because of this way of collaboration, the Eurocities organizations, the organizations of the 150 largest cities in Europe, they had a research and they said the way you are working in Eindhoven is the best example throughout of Europe. We were rather proud of that moment, and especially when in 2012 Fortune magazine said that the Eindhoven region will probably, in potential, the new Silicon Valley in the world. So you already mentioned that Forbes, based on the OECD figures, the OECD Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, named us to be the most inventive city a couple of months ago in the world. And then the figures are, well, rather convincing. We got 23.5% pro 10,000 inhabitants on patents. So no, I've said it on the wrong way. We got 23.5 patents per 10,000 inhabitants. And on the second place worldwide is San Diego, in Silicon Valley. They got 8.9% patents per 10,000 inhabitants. But I must say, well, I'm not so often very nervous, but I was on the 4th of June 2011 in the Brooklyn studios in New York. And there was a congress going on for an intelligent community forum in New York. And then the chair at that time took out a light bulb and said, Eindhoven is named to be the most intelligent community in the world. And you must imagine that it was 15 years after we had a real destruction of our economy. We were really sad at that moment in the mid-90s. We didn't know what to do. And 15 years later, in New York, they said, you are the most intelligent community. That made me really proud, I can assure you. So we try to find relevant solutions and products for the problems in the world today and tomorrow. I think we join problems in the world. I call 7 of these problems. We share the energy problems and the raw materials, the problems on mobility, on health, on aging, on food, on water, and safety. When I'm in China, or when I'm in South America, or in the United States, in Europe, or here, we are facing more or less the same problem. And we do think, especially in Europe and the United States, that we are facing a financial and economic crisis. I can tell you we are facing a system crisis on all the systems we are using on this moment on the earth. And that's asked for us a complete new approach, a new way of looking to this kind of problems and a new attitude. It's essential that we try to find all together in collaboration these new answers. And I cannot give them to you. I do not know what will be brought tomorrow. Did you know about the iPad 15 years ago, 10 years ago? No. So we will have to experience, we have to exchange knowledge, we have to exchange insights, and then we can help each other more than we did in the past. Very important is, it's not a way of finding solutions by institutes. When I came back from New York, I told my people, we are the most intelligent region in the world. And it's not true. Because a region cannot be intelligent. It's the people there. The way you are working here, your imagination, your collaboration here, that makes us, that they awarded us in New York. Nothing else. It's the way you are working. It's the way you're looking to the future. It's the hope you do have. Hope is the knowledge that it can be improved, it can be better tomorrow. That's the real sense of hope. I think I cannot wait to tomorrow. I go to quite a lot of laboratories, see what is there done by companies. I know what can happen tomorrow, and it will improve the world on a very interesting way. That's why I cannot wait for tomorrow. And when I see my countrymen, quite a lot of them are depressed by the crisis, instead of seeing the opportunities and going with full power and take these opportunities. So what we do is we try to convince our youngsters to see what is going on in the world. I by myself, I go to schools and I visit the kids and tell them about, wow, I'm so jealous about you. You will see a change in the world that the world has never seen before. And you may witness it, and you may be a part of it. But then we have to do studies like engineering, beta studies, and not only in our country we got a lack of beta people. Not only be a lawyer or be a doctor, that is necessary as well, but we need people who can think on another way, designers, and who can make technological improvements we never have seen until now. So I went to schools. What we do is we are always there when there is the World Lego League. I don't know, do you know the Lego League? Do you know Lego? That is, yeah? Okay. Well, there's a Lego League for youngsters until I think 12 years old. And we, 2 years ago, a team from Eindhoven won the World Lego League in St. Louis. And do you know what they figured out? Together, there was a kid, and his father had a heart attack. And then they found out, they told him, and he did some investigation, that if you cool the veins here after a heart attack, then the effects of the heart attack will diminish. So how can you cool it? So what they did is they took out a cooler from a laptop or from a desktop. They make it to how you call it, a scarf or something like that, put it in, and then on the veins. That was what they invented, and they brought it in. That was a great idea. It's starting to think on another way, that you can use this technology for a completely different purpose. That is, when kids already on that age can do so, then they will have a great future. We do have the Ontdekfabriek, it's the Discovery factory. It's on one of the former premises of the Philips company. It's a refurbished area, and there is the Discovery factory. And in this Discovery factory, youngsters come in, can have their celebration or a party, and then they can see a movie, for example. There is a movie that they are going to Shanghai with a boat, with all kind of stuff on the boat. But the boat is breaks down in the storm, and then they went on the shore with this stuff, and then they had to survive. And then, that's the moment the movie stops. You get into the Discovery factory, and all the stuff is there. And the challenge is, use this stuff and try to find your own way away from the shore and back to your own city. Well, that's kind of playing, well, it's about inspiring its new imagination we try to create with these kids. So we got for the other people programs like that as well. For example, we do have the Dutch Design Week. We are very much involved in the combination of technology and design. I will explain it later, but we got a design week, and it's the largest non-commercial design event in the world. The largest design event in the world you can find in Milano, and it's about furniture and fashion. It's Salone di Mobile. It's called Salone di Mobile. It's the salon of the meubles, the furniture. And this design week started from the designers themselves. They wanted to show how they are looking to the world, what they want to bring to the world, how you can look to another way, and what kind of products you can find in. So they started 12 years ago. And then at that time, 12 years ago, only, well, a couple of thousand people came over there. It's now, it's more than a week, and it's overwhelming the city. It's thousands, hundreds and thousands of people are coming there. All kinds of journalists from all over the world, seeing what's happening there. And well, we had a great article in one of the most important design magazines last time, and he was saying, I've seen London, I've seen New York, but I've seen nothing now. I've seen Eindhoven, the Dutch Design Week. So, and this is something co-creation between designers and volunteers from out the city, making this Design Week. We got a Dutch Technology Week. It's in May. It's a week with congresses, it's exhibitions, but the most important thing is that the companies are open their doors. They open their doors. The technological university, but all the companies I was naming before, and the suppliers as well. So that you can really, as a kid or as a mature person, you can go in and you can drive a special car. Or you don't need to drive because the car is driving itself. And you can experience it. You can experience all the new developments. And I think that's very important. Last week we closed our Glow Festival, and that is a festival about light, architecture, and technology. Let me give you some examples about what we are doing in the public space. We do have some lighting solutions, and well, as well on energy. For example, when I ask you to make an electric car, what is the first thing you are doing? There is an electric engine in it, and you get a cable, a connector, and that's more or less how far we are now. I don't know if you have seen here 2 or 3 weeks ago the solar car from the Technological University of Eindhoven, who won the challenge there in Australia, was here. That's with solar. But solar will not be enough within the next 10, 15 years to let drive a car. So we got a designer, Dan Rozengaarden, and he said, okay, I don't know if it will help, but what he said is induction. When we make induction loops in the way itself, and you drive over these loops, then it's giving energy by itself. You're loading the car by driving the car. In combination with solar energy. No connectors, no wires, nothing. It's just the other way of thinking. It's out of the box. It's not the way technological people are thinking, it's the way designers are thinking. So what we did, we got a center for youngsters with bars, that kind of things. They will go there quite often, and we got, of course, in our country, sometimes some problems then. And we have a light system. When there's a fast-running group or person, then the light is flashing on. And it's going with the person itself, through the street. Or when there's much noise, then it's lighting as well. So there is a connection between what is happening and the light itself. We got smart cameras for security. We have a very important highway lane from Antwerp to Germany. And it's going just on the south side of the city. And there's another one from Rotterdam to Germany as well, next to our city as well. And we had a cargo theft quite often. So the cargo was stolen when the truck went to a parking place, then for a sleep or for a rest, then we always say that the police told us there is a specific way how the burglars, how the thieves are working. They're coming with 2 cars, they're going up to the parking place and going off. They look what is happening, then they go around and come again. When you bring this in your computer program and you place a camera on that spot and you see this pattern, then you know this will happen. So what we are doing is we are looking to all the parking places and try to find this kind of patterns, and when there is a pattern like that, then there is alarm going off and we immediately act. The other one is, have you ever imagined about a parking garage? When someone is going to the first car, nothing happens. But when I'm going to the first car and try to open it, and it doesn't open, and I go to the second one and try to open it, then there's something wrong. So then it's an orange alert. When I go to the third one, I'm sure someone wants to steal the car or something out of the car. So when you put cameras on that, there is an intelligent way of working with the things you are seeing, connecting with a program, a computer program, and the cameras as well. So we are working hard on sustainable buildings. We do have the Van Gogh bicycle path. I don't know if have you ever been in the Netherlands? Who have been in the Netherlands? You took a bicycle? Yeah? Great doing so, eh? Okay. Well, we got Van Gogh lived near to Eindhoven, in Nune. It's a little village near to Eindhoven. And Van Gogh painted over there. So when you go to Eindhoven, go to Nune as well. And take the bicycle and go on all these spots where Van Gogh painted these beautiful paintings from his first period. Like the potato eaters. It's made there near to Eindhoven. But we got a Van Gogh bicycle path. It's about stones, and they will get some energy from the sun, and they will light in the evening when you pass it. And then you will see patterns of the paintings of Van Gogh. So you're making your own Van Gogh painting by driving over a bicycle path in Eindhoven. We do have new energy solutions, solar panels. We are working together with quite a lot of international companies on very thin film. And, well, for example, on food as well. This is about livable cities. What are we going to do with our food? Is it secure and safe? How can we make the logistics? We are working now on, well, we always thought in the Netherlands that crop and vegetables and fruits are growing by sunlight, hot, and by hot temperature and water and that kind of thing. So we got greenhouses in our country, putting in quite a lot of heat, quite a lot of sun, quite a lot of light, I must say. But that's not the point where the plants are growing with. The plants grow with red and blue light. They don't need all the spectrum. And they hate heat. They're not growing with heat because then they have to sweat too much. That's, well, a little bit weird, but it's true. What we see in our greenhouses is that for 1 kilo tomatoes, we need to use 44 liters of water. When we use this red and blue light, we only need 4 liters of water. And the other point is, we are giving them, in the more traditional greenhouses, we give them a substrate, we give them here a DNA-related food. So the combination of red and blue light, and it's not in the soil, it's just you can make a warehouse of it, like, well, it's with an elevator, it's going around. And it's red and blue light, and it's a DNA food, what you're bringing in. And in our greenhouses, at the best, we get a maximum of 13% of the potential of the plant. Here we are talking about 80%. And you can do it in the middle of Shanghai, in the middle of Singapore, in the middle of Mumbai. And the Philips company is working on this development now, on this very moment. It's rather complicated to find a good business model because DNA recipes you can find everywhere, and blue and red light you can find everywhere as well. So the business case is difficult, but the development will be there. I'm sure about that. So we did on infrastructure a citywide glass fiber network, so we can connect all kinds of different purposes, as well on health, and I think that's very important. We try to get people involved in the new approaches about health. It's what we call co-creation. We do have a program of smarter living, and within this program, the assurance companies, the health institutes, the people themselves, the government, Cisco, Philips, all kind of stakeholders are there involved, and the results are great. We lower the costs, and it's more effective, and the people are more satisfied. So this is what we do, for example, with the design, is that we really use design to give a shape on another way to our community, and that's very necessary. Let me give you a point. Is here someone a representative of a governmental institute? No governmental institutes? Yeah, you are. Okay. Well, I'm a mayor of the city, and my toolkit is regulations, rules, shields, laws, that kind of things. That's the toolkit of a governmental approach. We ask designers to give another approach. Let me give you a very simple example. When there is a street with a playground for kids there, and I don't want to have the car drive faster than 30 kilometers an hour, then normally you would place a shield with a red band and 30 kilometers in it. So you may not go faster than 30 kilometers. What we did now is we designed the street on a completely different way, so it's impossible to go faster than 30 kilometers. And we are using this kind of way of looking to the solutions far more often. And this is conceptual and social design. Design is not only about the shape of products, it's about the whole procedure you are using, it's the way of working together, and it's the product in the end itself. So we ask designers, what can we do with people with Alzheimer? You know Alzheimer? It's a disease. It's a disease for aging. We do have a robot now, and it is a technological robot. It's a robotica, but it has been programmed by designers. And this is a guy. Oh, I've been there, and there were two people who suffered on dementia, and they were there in a lab. We do use our city as a lab quite often. So I asked him, "This is only plastics. This is only a robot." And he said, "No, this is my best friend. He is talking to me. He's playing games with me. So I'm sitting, and then the robot is coming to me. Well, we play a game together." And then he's just on the breath of the robot. He's doing his first round, and then the robot is giving something back, and so. But he is telling when he's going out, "You forget your keys." Or when your son is calling, and his son is saying, "Well, I want to call. Can you call me tomorrow at 10 o'clock?" Then you are saying to the robot, I have to call Harold tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And tomorrow, 5 minutes before 10, the robot is saying, "You have to call Harold within 5 minutes. Will I dial for you?" That kind of things. So that is why this guy, he said, this is a part of myself. He's my memory. I forget everything. But when I tell him to remember it, he will. And it makes him more independent. Otherwise, he had to go in a house and, well, get some care over there. And now he can be, for a longer period, independent. So these are some examples, but there's so much more examples to give. I will not give them all to you. But what is it, what made us, I think, successful? I already told you about the triple helix. I'm not going to tell you that again. There are 4 issues, 4 points, 4 items for success. The first one was the triple helix. The second one is the open innovation. It was Henry Chesbrough in the United States who on paper for the first time said open innovation is the way we have to work in the future. And I can explain what happened in our region. You must know that for example the Philips company, the half of the products of the Philips company were not available in the market 2 years ago. So the life cycle of the products is 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 years. And then it's not an upgrade. You have to research and develop a complete new device. That's quite expensive, I can tell you. Research and development is riskful and expensive. So there was a necessity for the Philips company to use open innovation. Open innovation is now on the Philips physical laboratories at the high-tech campus. 10 years ago, the only player there was the Philips company. Now we got more than 130 companies working there together. And what they did, they got several institutes, like the Holst Institute, thin film, I had already told you a couple of other things, embedded systems, Soliance, well, all rather high-level institutes. And what are they doing there? They share their investment, research and development investment money. They share the people. And the people from the different companies are talking together and exchange knowledge. So they share knowledge. They share devices, research devices, and all kind of that kind of things. But what is important, they share risk as well. Because when something is not going to happen, that's quite expensive when you have to develop it for yourself. So when you can share these risks together with other companies, that would be great. They share risks, and the most important one is they share world standards, and they share a speed to the market. They will be more more rapid to the market than their competitors. So, but the only thing how it will work, and that's very interesting for Singapore as well, because you've got a very good IP policy here, is that there must be an IP management bureau. We do have a management bureau for IP. We know exactly what you are bringing in, what you're getting out, and there are all kind of contracts on the beginning. And I think that's a key factor for success when you want to work in open innovation. So I myself went to Samsung in Korea. We wanted to get them in the very expensive development of thin film. It's very expensive. You can't imagine how much money that is. So I tried to convince them to come to Eindhoven, and then they looked at me. This is a weird mayor. He's crazy. He's coming here to Korea and telling us that we have to share the knowledge we raised over the last 10, 50 years from all over the world, and now sharing it. No, they didn't want to do so. So they were very polite. They showed me out, and then I heard nothing. And half a year later, they went to Eindhoven, they listened, and half a year later they called. And they said, we want to go to Eindhoven. Can we have an introduction? So they went to Eindhoven. They went to Holst Institute. And this is the only large research and development facility of Samsung nowadays outside of Korea. They are working there. Panasonic, Philips, and Samsung are working there. And Samsung will use this thin film for the new television screen, so that you can do it like this with your television screen and put it into your pocket. We will use it, for example, for Soliance, or you can do it for your screen of your car with all kind of data. It's incredible what you can do with it, and they are working there together. So the open innovation is very important. The third one is what we call the natural supply chain management. And this is because of this Philips company who left so many people behind who started their own company. They all know each other. like you, Mr. Lee, you know all the people here as well. You are well connected with all the people. So we got a natural supply chain as well. We are rather connected with the people, the business people, and the knowledge institute in our region. And well, there is a very specific way of working, and this is the supply chain of ASML. I already explained something about ASML. But when you are a supplier of ASML, you're not allowed to work only for ASML. That's strange. Normally, a company wants to get one supplier working for themselves and gives exactly the data they have to make spare parts for. But in this case, they say, you may not only work for me, because in the semiconductor world, the economic waves are going like that. So when you only are dependent on one company, then you will go down with the company itself, and that will make it vulnerable. So you must have more companies you are working with as a supplier. And the other one is, and that's the most important one, is that they say, we cannot do the whole chain of research and development and innovation. So we ask you, as a supplier in the first and the second tier, even in the second tier, to do the innovation yourself. Of course, you have to make connections with the parts before you and behind you, and of course with ASML itself. But you may do your research and development yourself. No, there is an obligation to do so. So they do a real part of the complete machinery of ASML. And they are doing research and development, and they got so much skills and knowledge that they can become an OEM or an original equipment manufacturer by themselves, because they got a knowledge for research and development. Not all of them are doing, because when you are making your own products, then you have your service and your selling and all the kind of other stuffs you're not facing when you are only doing a supply activity. But we see some of these companies, because of this supply chain, the way we are working, we see them coming up as an original equipment manufacturer. And the fourth one, and that's a very important one for us, and we are still not strong enough. I told you about the awards, and that we are the most intelligent, the most inventive, etc., etc. That's about smart. But there is a difference about smart and about strong. Let me give you an example of the history of Philips as well. The Philips company, I think they produced the best video recorder ever made. That was the Video 2000. But it was hardly sold. And there were all kinds of reasons for that, but it was hardly sold. And the main reason was that there was nothing to put in the video recorder. So this was smart, but not strong. The compact disc, invented by Philips in Eindhoven, they invented it by themselves, but they brought it to the market together with Sony. And that was smart and strong as well, because together with Sony they could make the world standard. They could make the programs, they could make the devices for the compact disc, and it's still today, it's a very old technology, but still you see all kind of places the compact disc still existing. That was smart and strong. So we need a policy not only to be smart, not only to be the smartest or the most inventive region in the world, you're not making money with it. So there's a program in which we really debate with the companies that must be added value. We want to have added value. So what you see is that, and that I'm rather proud about that, is when we look to our export position, I told you about our export position, the percentage, but what is more important, for every euro that is coming from out of our area, abroad, so an export, we earn 60 cents added value. And when you compare it to the Rotterdam Harbor or the Singapore Harbor maybe, the Rotterdam Harbor, every euro export from out of the Rotterdam Harbor is only 6 cents added value. That's the difference. And we really need added value, because it's a vulnerable country we are living in. It's a small country like you have. We cannot do everything. We need to import quite a lot. So we have to export quite a lot as well. And we will have an aging population. That means that the labor market will shrink. And when there is an aging population, a part of the labor market will be used for care and cure for the elderly people. So when you look to the labor markets, within 15 years, it will be diminished. For the people who are doing really added value activities, it will be diminished to the half. It will be only 50%. That means that you, on the productivity for keeping the same level, you have to do twice as much added value, or you have to mechanize, automize your procedures, the way of working in your production. So this is a real problem, and I think you will face it as well. Where will you earn your money in 2030? I don't know. I do not have the answers. But I know for something for sure. In our case, it will be on a knowledge economy. It will be of a high added value, and it will be very important for the world. And then we are talking about the social issues I was mentioning before, the social issues we are facing in this moment. When we can find solutions that are interesting for the whole world, then we will have a position, and I think there will be something similar in your own country. So for me, for further growth, I always use 5 E's. And I will try to explain what I mean with it. And we are in the middle of the development of the 5 E's. The first one is the innovation, the open innovation. I already explained it to you. Very important that there is a collaboration between companies when they work together in the pre-competitive phase in research and development. But what is necessary to solve the problems is an intersectoral collaboration. We in the Netherlands do have 9 top sectors. It's about health, it's about food, it's about mobility, energy, water, that kind of things. But you can be smart on some top sector, on such a top sector, but you cannot be strong within the top sector. High tech itself is not giving you money. High tech is giving you money, it's bringing money when you combine it with food, when you combine it with smart solutions for health, for mobility, for energy, like food is combined with health or water. So you always need an intersectoral combination. And then it's bringing in the possibilities. But still, that's not enough. Because then we are only talking about technology. And I was telling you about the interdisciplinary collaboration with designers, for example. We need to look on another way to the issues we are facing in this moment. I'll give you 2 lines of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, he worked in Eindhoven at the Philips physics lab, and there are 2 very famous sentences of him. The first one is, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. When you get knowledge, and you do not have the imagination, what you can do with it, then you only remain on the level you are on this very moment. So it's imagination, it's creativity that gives you the hope that improvement is better, that you can make a better world. And the second one is that he said, and that's about our systems, that he said, the knowledge that causes the problems on this very moment is not enough to solve these same problems. We need new knowledge. And this new knowledge should be, well, inspired by a new way of thinking, by imagination. And that's why we try to combine designers and the technological area and disciplines together. And I think that's a very important approach. Then the integral approach. You cannot do this only interdisciplinary. You have to do it with the people themselves. You have to know what is the social issue. How does it work? What is the real problem? What am I solving? Is it another way around? Can we do it? Well, you have to look to the problems on another way than you did in the past. But do it together with the people in a co-creation. We are doing so. Quite often, we ask people what is the real problem and go along with these people and find out what is the real trigger. So the governmental approach there is very important, and the people in co-creation as well. And the last one is, and that's maybe the reason why I'm here. I think we are strong for high tech, but we cannot do everything by ourselves. We have to find friends in the world, and combine knowledge from them with our knowledge. So that you can here improve specific developments and we can do so and bring them together. Because it's too expensive to do it all and it's impossible to do it all. You cannot do everything here in Singapore. Neither can we in the Netherlands. So there is a necessity of international collaboration. 90% of all the technological inventions are made in 15 regions in the world. Only 15 regions in the world. So they have to work together, but that's not enough. Because now back to Einstein, you can make inventions, but when you do not use them on a proper way. Do you know the electric stairway, how it was invented? For example, the stairway we are using here in all kind of buildings. It was just a gadget. There was a designer at that time, and there was an exhibition, and then he made a stairway just going up and going down again. And the people were laughing. And it lasted 6 years before they, for the first time, used the electric stairway in a building to get from one floor to another. Do you know what Bell said when he was asked, where are you going to use your telephone for? And Bell said, well, I'm going to call someone that I'm coming. So we do not know what we are inventing. We do not know exactly the purposes of it. And so we need other people to help to bring this all together. And this is not only something from our area, we have to do it worldwide. And because of that, and I call it the borrowed size, we are a small country. We cannot do everything. But we can borrow knowledge from other places. We can borrow functions from other places. In our own country, for example, the financial district is in Amsterdam. We do not have the financial expertise. So we can try to do so, but then we are not as good as we are now on high-tech level or design, because then we need people for financials. So you borrow knowledge, functions from other regions. And then the best way to do so is to make an exchange, to see what do you need, what do I need, and make arrangements. That's why we make the connection with Canada for the quantum computing. They are using our mechatronics, and Photonica, we are using their quantum computing knowledge in the future. So I think this is a little insight in what we are seeing on this very moment in the world. Since the 1st of January, I'm the chair of the ICF, the Intelligent Community Forum Foundation in New York. I'm traveling all around the world. And I try to convince people to make new alliances and to see the opportunities in working together instead of making a fence around yourself. You will not be successful. This is not anymore the time of the past where you have to protect yourself. This is the time of Castells. And Castells is a famous Spanish philosopher, economic, different disciplines. And he was telling about the network society. And what I was telling about the 5 Eyes, that's where we are talking about when we are talking about Castells. And the awareness about these new developments are not full developed. That we have to figure out more than we did in the past, how we can work together and how we can share the things we need to find out. But then, when we want to work together, there are 4 issues very important. The first issue, the first point is it must be equal, on equality. There must not be someone feel it better than you. You do it on equality. And it must be beneficial for both sides. It must be beneficial for both sides. You're not going to collaborate when it's not beneficial for yourself. So you always have to bring in a win-win situation. The second one is openness, like I told you before. But when you want to work in an open situation, then trust is very important. That's the third one. It must be reliable. And today I heard so many people telling me, I asked them, why are you in Singapore? And then they said, well, I can trust the people here. They are not running with my intellectual property. So that's important that you have a trust and reciprociteit. reciprocity. So we hope that in the near future, the international connection between the Brainport region Eindhoven and Singapore can also be established and based on these principles. And I'm looking forward for collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor van Gijzel, for your entertaining and enlightening presentation. And now we will have the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, please state your name and organization before asking questions or making comments. You might like to raise your hand, and our staff will walk to you with our handheld mics. Otherwise, you can also go to the mics on the left and the right of the middle of the hall.
I think, Mayor, you've given us so much food for thought. I don't think many of us seated here, myself including, as we listened to your presentation, was struck by the depth in which you went into that deep thinking that drives what Eindhoven is today. And perhaps just to get the ball rolling, I wanted to ask you this question in terms of, can you actually teach imagination? It's a question that goes into really the heart into what society and how society is organized, what you teach in schools, how you bring up a person. It may be somewhat philosophical, but I think it really goes into the heart of how you perceive the way things ought to be organized, because half the battle is won if you can crisscross the organizational boundary lines that are either in the faculties in schools or in the across departments in organizations or even across agencies. And this is a big issue here in Singapore itself in terms of how to create a more interdisciplinary mindset, how to work more effectively across agencies. So I thought maybe I asked you this question to get some insights from you, and then maybe the rest of you can join in and help me.
I think it's possible, but we have to find out how we can do that in the best way. For example, I'm always jealous of France. In France, in the secondary school, and even in the last class of the primary school, you get philosophy. And we do not have philosophy in our schools. And philosophy is bringing people to new ideas, to insights. Well, people before you thought about the world and what's going on, and philosophers are always questioning. And questioning is the most important thing, not the answers. You have to have first the question and then the answer. And what we are doing in schools is we are learning people the answers and not the questions. Of course, you need the answers as well, but the way you look to the world. We got another problem, for example, in our education system. I always say in the Netherlands you always have to be alpha before you can become a beta. And of course you get your languages in the Netherlands. It's a small country, so we get Dutch, English, France, and in quite a lot of cases German as well. And then now you can even do Chinese and Spanish, but that's not an obligation. So, but when you are really beta, and you have physics and that kind of things, biological things, science, then sometimes it's very difficult to get your languages properly. And then you get not your degree. You must go out of the school because it was not possible. So we can cut off imagination. We can cut off beta people. So it's a way of thinking, and it cost me as well a rather time to understand what is really meant with designing. I give you an example, and it opened my mind. It's about dyslexic as well. It's about what it was telling about the alphas and the betas. Dyslexic people do have a problem with the languages. But do you know that in Chinese there are no dyslexic people? Because of the written symbols. they got symbols, they got not letters and words. It's a simple language. So it's neutral for people, dyslexic or not dyslexic. Who is here left-handed? Who is here left-handed? Okay. Well, I see some people from a Western origin, I presume. You always write like this as a left-handed. You have what did you do?
The normal way, but the other way around.
This like that. Yeah. But so a right-handed is right. We got from right to the left to right. So a right-handed is writing like that, but a left-handed is in most cases, without this sir over there, in most cases they're writing like that. When you would like the Japanese going from top down, then it would be neutral for left and right-handed. And the other one is, what are you doing with your bag when you are in a car as a lady? What are you doing with your bag? Putting on the chair next to you? And what is, when you use your brake, what is going to happen then? Whoa. Or you're not here in your hair. It's always there when a car is designed by men. It's not gender neutral. So you must be more aware about society. And this is something we can learn. You only have to see it. You have to debate it, you discuss it, and then the world is opening. It's going to open, and then imagination can get a place and creativity. And I think what is the point is you worked so hard over the last 40, 50 years and get a higher prosperity, a higher level of living, that it was about the most fundamental things. But now you are coming on a level that a new imagination and creativity is necessary. And that is what we reach now in the same moment. And this is something I really think, sorry that I take so much time, but the last point is, when you look to China, mainland China, the big issue in mainland China is, they do manufacturing quite a lot of products. But it's so hard for them to be an original equipment manufacturer, to shape their own products, to invent them, to develop them, and to bring them to the market. And there are two main points for that. The first one is that in their culture you may never be better than the master. That's very difficult when you want to be innovative. Because to be innovative, you will be better. Anyway, you will be different from your master. And the second one is, for creativity and imagination, you need an open mind. And in mainland China, that's still a problem. Because your open mind will not only be used for research and development, but will be used as a proper civilian in your society as well, with all risk going there together.
Thank you very much. And I thought I saw a hand earlier on, a couple of hands. Okay, there's a gentleman that's ready by the mic, and then followed by the lady there, and followed by the gentleman in front. Go ahead, please.
Yes, my name is Dennis Hendricks. I'm the University of Paris, and I was actually born in Eindhoven. The question I have was, you talked about the importance of taking a collaborative approach to economic development, working with the private sector, working with civil society, working with academia. And what I was interested in is if you take a similarly collaborative approach to addressing social challenges and climate change and those types of issues, if you kind of have a similar strategy there. Thank you.
Well, we did it, of course, for economic development in this triple helix. What we did with smarter living is all the stakeholders. And when you want to get to, we work together, for example, in what we call We Eindhoven. And that is about care in the neighborhoods itself. We are working with other stakeholders. The main issue, the main point here is co-creation. It's not anymore top-down. It's an horizontal world. When I was in the House of Parliaments, then we made these laws and regulations, and it was a top-down policy. But in the world of Castells, it doesn't work anymore. So you have to make your horizontal connections. And well, it depends on the societal point you're facing, what are these stakeholders you need to you use to work with together in the co-creation. But you're very right that they're not only always the same partners.
Okay.
Okay. There was a question from the back. There was a lady who put up her hand. Is there a mic that you can pass to her?
Hi, Vivian from Philanthropy Works. Thank you well, Rob. My question relates to aspects of Dutch culture and how they affect your productivity and innovation, for better or for worse. I understand that work-life balance is a key tenet of Dutch society, and that, you know, kids have time for play, time with their families, and so on. To what extent would any of these aspects influence innovation when they are adults? And to what extent would that impact, you know, the productivity of the Dutch worker? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a difficult question because it's about kids, and kids are all in different cases, different kids. But sometimes they say that they are impolite in the Netherlands. When I go with my kids to France, they say, well, these are impolite kids. They say they run in a restaurant and they just go wrong. On the other hand, it makes them more independent. And what you see on the working floor, and I hope some people can approve this, when there is an engineer and he is making a new product and it's going to the working floor, and then there is a labor, a blue collar, and he is saying, this is not going to work, you have to change it. And then the engineer is asking why are you saying that? And then he's going to explain it, and then when this blue collar is correct, then the white collar is saying, okay, I'm going to change it. In quite a lot of culture, it's impossible as a blue collar to say to a white collar that he is wrong. And I think maybe it's related to the young people and the freedom of mind and the way of working, and probably they're impolite, but on the other hand, they are rather independent in the way they think. And I think that's a part of our culture. I think that's for sure.
There was a hand in front, and then we'll come to a gentleman behind.
Yes, my name is Kees Christianse, and I am the program leader of the Future Cities Lab Singapore, and I also happen to be the architect of Eindhoven Airport. Thank you very much for your inspiring talk. I was wondering what you consider as the footprint of Eindhoven. I'll shortly explain. We are working here on the physical footprint of urban agglomerations. So, for instance, also on the footprint of Singapore. The footprint of Singapore does not stop at the border of Singapore. If you go to Johor, you will see orchard farms, you will have an enormous influx of workers and residential development and other things. So every urban agglomeration in a certain way has its footprint. Of course, there are also virtual footprints over aviation lines or internet lines, but we study the physical reflection in the form of buildings and infrastructure. If you go to Eindhoven, and for instance, the OECD says Eindhoven is the most intelligent region, we all know that Eindhoven is a polycentric node in the city network, where there is an enormous amount of flow between cities in the neighborhood, 1 hour distance in the southern western part of the Netherlands. I'm curious what for you personally makes up the footprint of Eindhoven.
This is a very good question. It's a question not only for Eindhoven, but for every city. And what you see, for example, there is not one footprint. there is a footprint for the daily urban system. So then we talk about shopping, about living, about theater, education institutes. You can reach by daily in your system. That is for Eindhoven. You talk about, well, let's say Tilburg, Den Bosch, Eindhoven. That's 3 cities near to each other, next to each other. So I think for that footprint of the daily system, daily urban system, in a city network, you need more or less 1.5, 2 million people. That is the first one. So this is the daily urban system. But then above the daily urban system, there is a connection between Eindhoven, Amsterdam, and Rotterdam. I try to explain with the ABC. We lend the financial. We borrow. We borrow the financial facilities and functions of Amsterdam, like ICT as well. They have to borrow our high-tech, our design. We borrow the activities in Rotterdam. So when you look to that, you see that there are 3 hubs. There is an Amsterdam hub, an Eindhoven hub, and a Rotterdam hub. And there is a corridor in between. So there's a knowledge corridor from Amsterdam to Eindhoven. There is a logistic corridor from Eindhoven to Rotterdam and maintenance. And there's a service and governmental corridor between Amsterdam and Rotterdam. So this is in our case. What happened, this hub can only exist. This is complementary. They do other things than we do. But this hub can only exist when above of this level, there is a combination with other on the function-related regions in the world. For example, we are working together, like I explained, we are working together with Taipei. We are working together with Chengdu. We are working together with Canada. Rotterdam Harbour, from their discipline, they're working with Singapore. They are working with Shanghai, with Mumbai, with New York. Amsterdam is doing something completely different. They connect all kind of financial hubs in the world. So there are different levels where you are working. And this system, you have to analyze it for your own city and to see, okay, what is my daily urban system? What do I need? How far is it? Quite a lot of people are coming from Malaysia here working every day. So they are a part of your daily urban system. How important is it? How important is it? And when it's important, then treat them as important. So, and then on the level above, what do I need to make connection within Asia, within the world? I cannot give the answers. This is an analysis you have to make for yourself, but we are making this analysis, and that makes that we can, well, I had a debate with the alderman last week of Rotterdam Harbour about exactly this approach. And then she said to me, I got a debate in the council. We are already working with The Hague, and we are already working with Antwerp. Now we have to work together with 3 of them. I'm in favor of it, she said, but my council, they do not understand this everything. And then I try to explain the different levels of collaboration. And then you understand that it's necessary to have these different levels of collaboration, because you cannot connect on one level all of the different functions the necessary for a larger city area.
Thank you very much. There was a question there.
Yeah. Hans van Ameren, working as heavy lift expert here in Singapore. Earlier this year we had the visit of the Queen and the King-to-be. Together with such a visit always comes a bunch of CEOs and businessmen, this time under Mr. Wintjes. Fortunately, I saw one education institute, but it was Wageningen. It's a very, very important institute. But in the Netherlands we have 3 more, Delft, Eindhoven and Twente, and that they are important. You just mentioned that they all 3 were very high ranking, 2 first and 1 third place in the solar race. So there is importance in these institutes, but together with the business delegation and the state visit, there was none.
No, but there is a tight collaboration. There is in our delegation, there is a representative of the Technological University of Eindhoven as well from the Design Academy of Eindhoven. But they are now at the university discussing the new program they are working on together. So there are several universities who are involved in this program from the Technological University. I do not want to be impolite, but going with the Queen and the King-to-be, well, is now king on this very moment. At that time, it's not always the most effective way of meeting people, because there is so much attention to the Queen or the King or well, all the authorities, that there's hardly any space to meet people on another way. So then you have to make a new trip, a new mission, and then you can work out, elaborate on this relation, but that's difficult. So I can imagine that they are looking, is this on this very moment proper to go there and effective? What we are doing now, I'm the representative of the 5 largest cities in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, Den Haag and Eindhoven, in the Dutch Trade Board. And what we did in the past, we were only looking to the BRIC countries, just Brazil, Russia, India and China. And we enlarged our view. All the countries are at focus, but we're not going to all the countries. We are really looking what are the most important countries for us to have a connection with them. And that's not always the emerging markets. It's not always a BRIC country. So we just decided that we had a debate with an interview with quite a lot of entrepreneurs here, Dutch entrepreneurs, and I made a proposal: can we have an outbound from here scene, an inbound from us scene, an inbound Singapore mission to the Netherlands? Because you are saying something about the Technological University, not here at that time. I hardly see any missions from Singapore, other than governmental missions, any missions from Singapore to the rest of the world, and especially not to Europe. So there is much to improve.
Maybe if I could just write on the question, ask a slightly more provocative question, which you're at liberty to decline not to answer. But when you go back to Eindhoven and you're sitting in your office and you're gazing at this part of the world, I know you travel globally, but as you look towards Asia itself, and Eindhoven seems to have done a lot of things right. But what could possibly go wrong in your worldview? And what are the sort of challenges you see for Eindhoven, given that Asia itself is also becoming more competitive in the areas of R&D? It may take some time for them to catch up, but certainly I think there is both organic development as well as acquisitions, mergers and acquisitions that are taking place. And if you have your economy that hinges upon a few multinational companies in the way in which some of the other countries have banked on Kodak, on Nokia, on BlackBerry, and look what's happened to them, then I think there's also certain risks that will need to be managed. So maybe I just seek your views on this question.
It's always going up and down. Well, we had what BlackBerry and Nokia had now in the last couple of years, we have had in the 90s, because of the Philips company. Headquarters away, 12,000 people on the street. The Duff company broke down, so we already have this. That is not a guarantee that it will not happen again, but we are more aware about this kind of threats than we were in the past. Still, there are some threats, and it's very difficult for me to influence these developments. For example, what you see here in Singapore, it really inspires me. How many people who do live here in Singapore are coming from abroad? A percentage. Do you know that?
Oh, quite a large percentage.
Quite a large.
Yeah. Quite
a lot. How many? 25, 30%? Well, try to come to the Netherlands, and it will be very tough for someone from abroad. A couple of months ago, the Bundeskanzler from Germany, Angela Merkel, said the future, the economic future of Germany is in the hands of the people who are not living here now. And she's so right. So she lowered the level. You had to earn 48,000 euros per person to get in Germany and in the Netherlands. So she immediately lowered the income limit to 28,000. And we still own 48, and in some cases 38. So the people who want to work, it's not only about higher education people, it's about craftsmen. It's about people who can do things with their hands and are really smart with their hands. And so they cannot come to our country. I see it as a real threat. And it's a signal of protection. You want to protect your own prosperity, not let people in, and you know for sure, I know for sure, that it's just a threat for your prosperity, your future. So you will destroy your own future by not letting people. Look to Singapore. You have a great 50 years, 40 years, because of the people coming from outside, working together with hope, seeing a new future. New York. All the people went to New York, and they made it to a great city. It's not a right policy to keep people out. We are doing so. So I really think that's a real problem. The other point is, because of that, we got a lack of professionals, high-skilled people. That's difficult as well. And there is our country. Well, maybe it's more or less the same in your country. Our country, when you look to the history of the Netherlands, it was always dominated by trade and agriculture. And trade, when you look to the trade, then you see that in the slipstream of trade, there was a financial world, assurance, logistics, that kind of things. So we were always traders. We were going all around the world, seeing money, but that changed. The world is another world than it was in the Middle Ages. So the financial world diminished. The harbor, how much money can we earn with it? It's still very important, but it's not the added value we expect from the harbor. It's not our future. So we need to find new activities, economic activities. And I see it as a threat that still our national government is putting their cards on the economic activities from the past and not from the future. And you always have to look for opportunities for the future. And I don't know how the policy is here. If the eyes are wide open and see what is going on in the world, look for the right alliances, work together, and not doing the same thing as you did in the past. When you do the same thing what you did in the past, you will get the same future as it was in the past. Nothing will happen, will change. So you need to do other things than you did in the past. And then the last one is a huge threat. Do you know where the exchange, the stock exchange. Do you know where the stock exchange has been invited? It was in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. It was in the late Middle Ages. And what happened was that we were from the trade, and we wanted to send ships to Singapore, to Japan, Indonesia, India. But that was quite expensive, these ships. So we need some money. And then we gave stocks. So you could buy a stock for that ship, and you were not sure that it would come back. So it could be left somewhere in the oceans. But when a ship was coming back with gold or other articles, then it was quite profitable. So you bought new stocks. And this way of working made that there was entrepreneurial financial world. An entrepreneurial financial world. What we see is a financial world that is not entrepreneurial anymore in our country, and especially not in Europe. So maybe here it's a little bit different, but I see it as a real threat that entrepreneurs is very important to make the world better, and financial entrepreneurs are a key element in that development.
Thank you. I think you've touched on an area which is very much the center of discussion in Singapore itself, and I'm hoping that... I'm sorry. No, I think that's the sort of perspectives I hope more Singaporeans would have a chance to benefit from, because obviously Eindhoven and Netherlands have been thinking hard about where it's going to find its future living, and likewise Singapore too. We were a port before anything else, before Changi Airport came along, and now we're looking for higher value add activities and an knowledge economy. It's what everyone else is thinking about, but it's the process of getting there. I think that's the most difficult part, because you have to get that level of consensus, and you need to work across boundaries, and that's the most difficult thing, just to get that whole effort together.
Well, the most important thing is the awareness that you have to go to another point than you are here. So, and when you know that there are more opportunities than you have seen until now, that you can bring people together, that you, well, in the cross-disciplinary approach, that there are new possibilities we have never seen before, then I think we will be inspired. And inspiration is very necessary to get new development. So it's good to see you, anyway, you see that there is a new future. I see with my countrymen, some of them still think that they will do exactly the same thing as that they did before the crisis. But the world has been changed in the last 5-6 years. You cannot do exactly the same thing as you did before the crisis. So, you have to develop. You never can stick on the same position as you had before.
Thank you. I'm mindful of the time. Do we have time? Can I ask for one last question? Is there anyone that has a burning platform or burning ambition, either of the two, to ask a question? Okay. Go ahead. You have.
Okay, my name is Jan Vasbinder. I'm Dutch, and I'm working at the Complexity Institute at NTU. It's the Nanyang Technological University. Now, very early in your talk, you mentioned that the world systems are in crisis. Now, it occurred to me that many of the crises in those world systems are actually caused by technology, or are a direct result of the unexpected consequences of technology. And in the beginning of your talk, you very strongly emphasized, maybe not on purpose, but anyway, that's the way I heard it, on the need for new technologies and the tremendous potential in Eindhoven to develop those technologies. Now, my question to you would be, and it is at the same time a proposition, more or less, for the collaboration that you're seeking, that is there any activity going on in Eindhoven to anticipate the consequences of the technologies that they're yet to develop or are developing? And if not, and even if, would that not be a very nice, very non-dangerous area for Singapore and Eindhoven to collaborate? Because the same thing is true for Singapore. That's at least my perception as a 2.5 years old resident of Singapore, is that they very much focus on technology and on engineering solutions, and they very little think through what are the consequences, the unexpected consequences, what could they be in the future. And since they're unexpected and you don't know them, you have to study them, you have to really do research for that. I think there might be a basis for a very nice collaboration between NTU and the University of Eindhoven, or Singapore and Eindhoven. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, there's always a black side of technology developments. You always have to face that. But I'm really optimistic. In the first place, when we look to the world and we see how many people are living on this earth, it would have been impossible with technology. And then, what would happen if we would not have the technology for food and that kind of thing we developed over the last 50 years? There would be hunger all over the world, and all kind of other. On health, we would suffer all kind of diseases. I think, well, maybe I'm rather optimistic, but I was well aware about what the Club of Rome, the Commission of Rome, they said in the 60s and 60s, later in the 70s, that there will be a lack of raw materials and energy. I think the problem is nowadays that we got too much of fossil energy. And that too much makes that we could be much more further in our technological developments with solar energy and that kind of things. If there's schaliegas, I don't know the English word in the United States. What is it? Shale gas. Schaliegas, oil and that kind of things. So it's our scale of economy. It's our vision of economy that is opposed to new developments. What I see is that it could be very much cheaper and better when we use new technology in health all over the world. People are suffering all over the world on all kinds of diseases, and it would be so much better for them. And well, I think the best thing what we can do is to secure elderness. I always have seen in the world that when you get an amount of money, when you get elder on older people, so that your future will be secured, then there is no necessity for kids. So what I saw, that's real. You could see in the Netherlands, when there was a real pension, when there was a state pension, it was introduced, we immediately saw a downgrade of all of the numbers of kids. Because the kids is a security for you when you are an older people. So an element. So no, not an element, an old man. I think that kind of a way of looking to problems will improve the world as a whole. But technology is very important to help us on energy, on food safety, for example. And I explained something about red and blue light, about raw materials, what we reuse by technology. We are more aware about what we are using for raw materials and how we can use it again. So I think it will only be better.
Okay, we have. Are you able to take maybe the last two questions? We take them together. There's a gentleman in front, and there's a gentleman there, and then we will just close off the session with these two questions. So maybe we'll just allow these two first of all, the gentleman in front, and then followed by a gentleman behind. Go ahead. Okay, so one question on how to address the aging population. And the gentleman behind?
Yeah, I'm Shi Tiong. I'm an architect and town planner. Yeah, I heard about Eindhoven and I heard about Sondo in Korea. Yeah, I heard Sondo is not doing very well. Despite all the technological innovations, they are not drawing people from Seoul to work in Sondo. Okay, maybe you would like to slightly compare to that. But I heard one issue you mentioned which triggered me that I have to say something. It's about energy. Now, Mr. Tan is now Ministry of Transport. We are buying 800 diesel buses in the next few years to improve our so-called public transport. London Transport last year already changing all the bus fleets to liquid hydrogen. And it's absolutely clean technology which emits only water. Why are we still buying 800 diesel buses? I stopped taking cars. I'm a green person, so I take buses nowadays. And I'm blown by this diesel exhaust on my face every time I stand at the bus stop. When the bus stop, the hot air and the fume just blow onto my face. Okay, this is diesel. Why are we not looking ahead of the technology, you know, and build a more sustainable city? Thanks.
So you have two questions there. I'm not sure whether the second question is for you or it is for the Ministry of Transport. But since I'm here only to moderate this session, I give you the honor.
Well, in the first place, regarding to the aging problem, it's not only here. We see it in Taiwan, we see it in China, we see it everywhere. I think in our country you can stop working with 65 years, and it will be raised to 66, 67 later on. Do you know 65? I don't know what's the age here that you can.
Yeah. No, I mean
82. Yeah.
retirement 60.
No, 60. When can you retire?
62.
62. Wow. That's young. Do you know, since the Second World War, our population, the average lifetime expectation is raising a quarter every year. A quarter, 3 months every year. So they are talking now about kids who will born on this very moment, who will be 125 years old. So my father was 50 and he looked very much more older than I now, and I'm 60. And he was older. He was really much older. He was suffering diseases, that kind of things. The 65 is coming from Bismarck. And Bismarck introduced 65 as an age because the average expected lifetime was 65. And then he said, well, people becoming older than 65, they may retire. But it's not from the time anymore. You must imagine, I'm visiting all the 100 years people birthday in our city, and it's doubling every year. It's doubling every year. I can't visit them anymore. So no, it's too much. It's too much. So then you can imagine what will happen in the. So we have to bring people in more active life. And well, there is a presentation. There was a presentation from the Technical University. We are making people physically old, but mentally, well, so that they can live through. But mentally, we are doing nothing with these people. We set them aside, and they can do so many things for society, and it's better for them. It's better for us, and it's better for them. But then we have to make other arrangements together. So I think that's very important. Independency for older people is very important. So give them more independency than they got until today. So there are all kind of things to do. On the other hand, when you see that, well, I'm very curious about development, population development within 40 years. Then the peak will be died over there somewhere. And what will happen then? So we are all looking to, well, aging on this very moment, but what will happen after this aging wave? That is something we have to think about it as well. Then the diesel.
First, you have to answer the question in comparison between Songdo and Eindhoven. So, in Korea.
What's
what?
Shindu. Dat weet ik niet. Wat is bedoeld?
Near the Incheon airport, they created a knowledge city or intelligence city called Songdo.
Songdo.
S-O-N-G-D.
That's right. Yeah.
Not Chengdu.
Songdo in Korea, near Incheon.
It is invested by an American company called Gale, actually. 60% owned by them.
I suppose the question is
where... It's too difficult for me. No, then I can, of course I can tell something about it, but I do not know where I'm talking about it. But maybe we misunderstand each other, and you explain me later, so I can give you the answer later on. And the other one is the diesel. Well, I'm really looking, that's why I was talking about the ease. Let me try to explain it. For example, a very simple example. Philips can make LED lights, public LED lights here. But it's quite expensive to renew them immediately for the public government. It's quite expensive to do so, that all the street lights are renewed within 1 year. But we can make constructions, and we are looking for that kind of financial constructions, is that the Philips is going to renew the light within 1 year, and they guarantee you a diminishing of your exploitation money for 30%. In real, it's 70% cheaper. So you will be, your benefit will be 30%. They will keep 40%, but they will not keep only 40% for themselves. What they do is they need to make a financial arrangement. So they have to find a financial institute who can finance this reconstruction, what will be of billions of dollars. So that we paid from the 40%, you can do partly, you can repay the capital costs of this construction. And on the other end, you have to maintain this light, so you get a contract, you pay 30% less than you did last year, you get all LED, new LED in your city, and it will be maintained as well. And the agreement is, within 10 years, we're gonna renew it again, all. So there will be always of the highest level, your street lights. So there are combinations you not can only find well, for technology. You have to find, well, entrepreneurial financial activities, companies. And you need a government. And together you make this kind of construction. This is a simple one. So if you're not doing this kind of things and that are more sustainable, then you are going to do the old technology, like diesel or old street lights, or you stick to the old street lights. So we have to figure out new models of renewal in co-creation. What's that? VDL.
Okay, so I think we've reached the end of the session itself. I thank you all for asking very interesting questions, and also I would like to thank the mayor himself for so kindly giving us time from his very busy schedule. And I hope that you have a chance to visit more of Singapore and to sample what we have here, and also to bring home some insights, if not some new partnerships that we can forge. And then certainly I think for a small country like Singapore, we do share many similarities with Eindhoven, Netherlands, and I think here is where, as you have highlighted, this idea of open collaboration or partnerships and working together in niche areas where we can make a difference to the world to address many of the pressing issues that confront our societies is definitely the way that we should go ahead. So please join me in giving a round of applause to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor van Gijzel and Mr. Tan, for sharing your insights and experiences with us. Before you go, we would like to invite Mr. Tan to actually present a token of appreciation to Mayor van Gijzel.
Your view of the world now is presenting you a book on another man's view of the world. The title is One Man's View of the World.